And my mother is a Holocaust survivor.
Wow.
So her story to me was always one of, sort of against all odds, surviving this terrible thing as a child. But because the authority figures in her life had so disappointed her, the government officials, people, she had been so rejected, I think that I became very irreverent as a person. So I didn't necessarily have...
Welcome to the Whole Student Podcast with Cal Balavan. Whole Student refers to the magical moment when a student is fully seen, heard, and known. This is a spark of a relationship between student and teacher, where the former is catalyzed on a journey beyond what they thought possible, and the latter is a proud advisor cheering from the sidelines. The Whole Student Podcast asks guests to reflect back to their moment, to the person who became a transformative teacher in their lives, and on the journey they were set upon. Our guest today is Gwyn Lurie. Gwyn is a former UCLA class president and a Newton-Tatum Scholar at Oxford University. Lifelong writer, Gwyn began her career as a journalist for ABC News in New York. In 1987, she was a producer on the award-winning documentary Voices from the Attic about her family's years in hiding during the Holocaust. She later broke into the entertainment industry, going on to work as a screenwriter for more than 2 decades. Gwyn's writing credits include the feature film 9 Lives, starring Kevin Spacey and Jennifer Garner, The Music Never Stop, starring J.K. Simmons, as well as Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the BFG. Gwyn has been an active member of the Montecito, Santa Barbara community since she moved there full-time with her husband, Les Firestein, and 2 daughters in 2009. A decorated volunteer, she completed 2 terms as an elected member of the Montecito Union School Board and served as chair for the Santa Barbara County Child Safety Net Task Force. Whew, there's a lot of words there. Gwyn was a founding board member of the Partnership for Resilient Communities, a partnership created after the January 9th debris flow to help keep Montecito safe from future disasters. She co-chaired the Santa Barbara Human Rights Watch Committee. In 2019, Gwyn purchased the Montecito Journal and founded the Montecito Journal Media Group, for which she currently serves as CEO and executive editor of the Montecito Journal, the Montecito Journal Glossy Magazine, and the Giving List Santa Barbara, the Giving List Los Angeles, and the Giving List the Bay Area. Whew! It is my pleasure to welcome my friend and sister, Gwyn, to the Whole Student Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Cal.
There was a lot there. I want to capture it all.
Can I correct a couple things?
Please.
So I was student body president at UCLA, which is a little different to those of us who take a little too much pride in those achievements. But also, I was a writer on the Roald Dahl, 2 Roald Dahl, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and the BFG. Although I was not credited writer on the film, but I did adapt both screenplay, both books.
All right. So you brought up the idea of being a student body president. But describe yourself as a student when you were growing up.
Well, there were different stages of my being a student. I would say I'm a product of public education all the way through.
Okay.
I would say in my secondary and before, I would say I was a clever student.
Okay.
Which means I knew how to get A's, but I didn't necessarily think all that much about what I was learning.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So all the way through when? When would you say you were clever?
I would say that was through high school.
Okay.
And then I attended UCLA. And while it may have still been enough to be clever, it was less satisfying. And I found there were a few teachers in college that really pushed me and inspired me to grow as a student and to care about and think about and be thoughtful about my education.
Before you go there, and it might be the answer, who was the first person where you felt, as a student, fully seen, heard, and known?
Well, first of all, in my classes, because I have many teachers in my life, and they're not all in the classroom.
That's right.
In my classes, 2 teachers in particular, I would say 3 teachers in particular come to mind. One, do you want names?
Yes, I want names. I want to set the stage for us. What year were you in school, etc.?
One was an popular American history teacher, 20th century American history teacher named Blanche Wiesen Cook, who wrote the book on Eleanor Roosevelt. And it was an upper division history course I took as a freshman.
Okay.
And I remember being in the class, one of the few freshmen in the class. And I remember the midterm was a 20-page paper. And I can't believe I remember this, but I could tell you the question of the paper, which was to discuss the origins and significance of World War I and World War II with regard to Pan-Americanism and fascism. And that's a big question for a 20-page paper. Right? There are about 1,020-page papers in that answer. And I really had no idea what to do. And people in the class, some of the upper division students, were asking questions that I didn't even understand the questions they were asking. And I remember going to the teacher and this was the midterm, so it was like a week before it was okay to drop the class.
This is your first semester?
First semester UCLA.
Wow.
And I remember in tears going to the professor and asking her to drop the class. And she wouldn't let me drop the class. She said, let's see how you do on this paper. And she talked it through with me, and I think I had a week to do it. I probably spent 5 days crying and 2 days not sleeping, writing furiously. And I remember and this certainly didn't happen in every class, but I remember I got the highest A in the class on the paper. And it was largely fear-driven, I think. Wow. But she said, I have more confidence in you than you have in yourself. She said, don't worry about getting the answer right. Just say something that you want to say. Wow. And that was an important moment for me.
Wow. Do you stay in touch with her?
No.
Okay.
I don't even know if she's still alive. She may be.
Wow.
But she was no, I'm not in touch with her.
Wow.
And then there was a public speaking teacher who I love very much named Marty Gregory, who I am sort of on and off in touch with over the years. But she was I wouldn't call that my most academically challenging experience, but it was an important experience in my life as...
Well, I think it's interesting because you're a writer, you're eloquent when you speak, when you write, and I wonder what your teachers might say, right? Especially those that are part of that journey. I have more faith in you than you have in yourself. Wow.
Well, my sister and I and my brother were the first in our family to graduate from college. And I came from a very loving, very supportive family. Yeah. But it wasn't a serious academic family. I didn't go to private school, and I didn't go to a fancy Dunn Academy, Dunn School. And I really didn't have that kind of confidence in myself in that way. Wow. So there were people along the way that saw something that I didn't necessarily recognize yet. And it was that faith in me that allowed me to, I guess you'd say, sort of ride on their faith. That was really foundational for me. Wow.
You started your journey about talking about feeling seen, heard, and known in college, and how you were the clever student all the way through. And it wasn't until college that you felt like the curiosity and feeling challenged and wanting to learn. I wonder, are there teachers in your past, teachers where you felt unmotivated, teachers that weren't just doing their job and you felt like, okay, I'm just going to get through this thing, that would be surprised by what you've become and what you're doing now in the world?
I don't know what they'd think. And I don't necessarily know what they'd think about me. But I definitely had teachers, and I would say more in high school and junior high, who I felt didn't see me. You know, I felt sort of, I don't know that I had that person that did this with me.
Yeah.
You know, and I had a family that,
of course,
told me I could do anything.
Right.
Which also probably wasn't true.
but they believed in you too.
But I believed them for some reason.
That's right.
But you know, Cal, and tell me if I'm taking this on a direction you don't want to go, but I think I understand what you're getting at with the importance of having someone believe in you.
Yeah.
And having someone have faith in whoever you are.
That's right.
And my teachers and my heroes, because we get asked a lot, who's your hero?
Yeah.
And I've never had one hero or one mentor. I find my mentorship in moments. And you're a teacher of mine.
Oh.
It's true. And I had teachers, you know, my parents have been my teacher.
Yeah.
My husband has been my teacher.
Yeah.
I have many dear friends. Some of my investors now, I'm so blessed in my company to have investors who have taught me so much about business and courage and doing the right thing and taking safe chances, reasonable, responsible risks.
Wow.
So and sometimes it's just something that someone says to me that changes my life just a little bit, that I latch onto. So they may not even know that they're a mentor or a teacher.
Wow. Okay. So you're ever the student, always learning, always growing. And this season's special because we're focusing on folks who are entrepreneurs. And you've been an entrepreneur in so many different ways, on the social justice side of things, in terms of the news that you share, in terms of the work that you're doing, and especially with what you've done with the Montecito Journal. Can you talk a little bit about who's inspired you in terms of, is there a teacher or someone like this in your life who helped you see the entrepreneur in yourself?
Wow, that's such a hard question. Because I don't know that I would point it back to one person. Again, I think that I grew up in a family. My father was, he was ill when I was a young child. He worked very hard to support the family, but I felt his frustration that he always worked for someone else. And that he always was beholden to the whims of bosses and managers, and had his dreams dashed a number of times because of it. And I think I really took that in as a child. And my mother is a Holocaust survivor.
Wow.
So her story to me was always one of, sort of against all odds, surviving this terrible thing as a child. But because the authority figures in her life had so disappointed her, the government officials, people, she had been so rejected, I think that I became very irreverent as a person. So I didn't necessarily have faith in authority inherently the way other people did.
Wow.
So, to me, I've always been a little bit of a risk taker.
Okay.
I don't know that I've appreciated the opportunities that failure have afforded me as much as I could have
Fair enough.
seen it at the time.
Fair enough.
But I've always been a little bit of a risk taker. But even for the 20 years that I was a screenwriter, And, there's some freedom that comes with that. You're not clocking in.
Fair
You're
enough.
sort of, it's a little bit entrepreneurial, but at the end of the day, unless you're writing movies on spec and trying to sell them, or you're out there directing independent films, you still have a boss. You still have studio executives giving you notes on your pieces. You're still easily replaced by another writer when they decide everything's your fault.
Okay.
So I think I longed for a chance to bet on myself. And I think that coupled with my deep and strong belief in the importance of local journalism were the kind of two guiding principles that led me to take on this challenge.
Wow. So at some point, from UCLA to the moment where you said, I can do this, you grew the faith in yourself as a writer, as an entrepreneur, as someone who take your creativity and just, I'm going to be my own boss. And along the way, there have been a lot of different people in that journey. So if I gave you a magic wand and said, okay, you got your former teachers from UCLA, you have your family members, you have a bunch of folks. In this moment, wave that magic wand, you got 5 people to pick to come to dinner, your teachers in life. Who are they?
Okay. I would have Rick Tuttle, who was the dean of students at UCLA.
Okay.
And was the student advisor who sat on the student government board. He's the one who had encouraged me to apply for a Rhodes Scholarship. He encouraged me to apply for a Truman Scholarship.
Wow.
Sophomore. He's the one who allowed me to think of myself as a real player in the world, that what I did and what I thought and what I said mattered. And that was huge. I would say he was a major inspiration. Another teacher who just passed away was Bruce Corwin, who was one of my investors, owns Pacific, or the Metropolitan Theaters in Santa Barbara. His family does. But he was... had so much humility, but also just real faith in me. And was the first one to say yes when I said I wanted to do the journal, and was the person when I tried to hire someone but was afraid that someone else would sue us if I hired them because of an unfair contract that had been signed. He looked at me and said, Gwen, we do the right thing. We don't do the thing out of fear.
Wow.
And so that was... my sister's been an incredible teacher to me in my life. She is a big thinker and someone who's always been there for me and been a good partner for me in good crime.
Good crime.
So she's been an amazing person. Cal, I have to have more than 5 people at this table.
I know. Well, hey,
it's like you're asking me to have a birthday party with 5 people. I can't do it.
Fair enough. Well, you're at 3. Let's see. We get to 5, and we'll see. We got to get some alternates just in case people can't make it.
I'm going to put 2 as 1. I'm sorry, I'm bending the rules. I'm a rule breaker.
Fair enough.
I'm going to bend the rules. Okay. The 2 people who were student body president of UCLA before me. One was a guy named Bobby Grace.
Okay.
Who actually is now, may end up running for the DA in Los Angeles. He's head of the gang division in South Central LA. And he was student body president of UCLA. And I learned so much from him. He's still a friend. But I learned so much from him about what I learned from him is that when you're trying to sell something, what you're really selling is your passion for that thing, more than that thing.
Wow.
And he was really a great role model to me, and he was a partner in the whole anti-apartheid movement at UCLA that we took part in, and anyway, so I would say him, and I would say Ben Vandebunt, who was actually my boyfriend all through college, but he was the student body president the year before I was.
Wow.
And I remember when I first started to run for student body president, and I was running against all men, three of whom were in the Greek system, and one was the head of the Asian Student Association.
Wow.
So I was basically, I was destined to lose. And I had a meeting with students in the dorms, and I was sitting in a dorm room, and the room was kind of packed with my peers, and I sat on a chair, and everyone was on the floor sitting around, and I felt so uncomfortable and so out of my body. And I remember I left that night going, I'm going to lose. I did horribly. Like, they weren't even listening to me.
Wow.
And he said, they weren't listening to you because you were speaking to them. You were speaking at them. You weren't speaking to them. These are your friends. Like, these are your peers. These are people who want to understand how you're thinking, because they are you.
Yeah.
You know, and something he said that day changed my life in some small way.
Wow.
Like, always changed the way I approach speaking with people.
Got it.
So
Okay.
that was
Wow.
another good one.
Okay.
And then the other person I would have at the table is my friend Meryl Zigar, who is one of my investors, but I've just learned so much from her, the way she thinks about philanthropy and giving back, and why that's so important, and how she takes that on with, she's an amazing influence on me and teacher for me now in my journey.
Wow. Wow. Okay. It's interesting. You are the first person on the podcast to not have any of their classroom teachers in the mix, which is interesting to me, right? Because the idea of seeing your whole self, you have people that saw aspects of you and gave you mirrors in your life, and you've mentioned them. It's interesting to me.
If you gave me more than 5, I might have someone there.
Yeah, maybe fair enough. But it's interesting to me because they're sophisticated individuals at different moments in your life. And you were right when you said there are moments, and you brought those moments forward. And those moments are mirrors for you, right? As you're seeing yourself, and you're expanding who you are in the process.
Can I make one point about that? Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
I do remember very vividly, all the way back from first grade, negative things that certain teachers said that stuck with me and impacted me. I remember one teacher said, I remember overhearing her say, she's not a good reader.
Really? And you were in first grade, and you overheard this?
I was in first grade. We were put in reading groups, so she wanted me to be like in a lower reading group.
Oh, wow.
And I later found out after college that I was dyslexic.
Wow.
But it's interesting how the positive sticks with you, but so does the negative.
Yes.
And I think, I wonder sometimes if teachers understand. And by the way, I feel that as a parent.
Of course.
Do we always know how much what we say matters and sticks with our kids and our students? And
see, that's interesting to me, because here's this teacher who actually wasn't seeing all of you, right? Who actually reduced you to a perception that wasn't true, that didn't see below the iceberg whatsoever. And it stuck with you. That comment stuck with you. And a part of me wonders if, first of all, she probably doesn't even remember it, if she's still around, right? But look at what I'm doing now, right? And to have that moment with those folks that, I won't say they disbelieved in you, but they didn't believe in you enough. Is that fair?
I didn't feel seen by them. I think that's what you use that expression. Yeah. And I think, I didn't feel seen. And also I felt limited by their judgment of me.
Yeah, limited.
Yeah. By the way, I have to say, this is like that Academy Award moment when I'm not thanking someone I should thank. Another important teacher to me has been my husband. He's been an incredible partner, creative partner to me. And he'd be at that table too.
That's wonderful. Okay. There's a lot of people at that table.
You'd be at that table too, Cal.
Fair enough. There's going to be a lot of people at that table, right? We'll take turns. Musical chairs. Gwen, this has been wonderful. There's a lot of thought-provoking quotes, reflections, moments in your journey that are going to be inspiring to people, the folks that listen to the podcast. The hope is that what they hear inspires them to think about the teachers in their lives, the ones that really set them on a path, who saw them, who heard them, who believed in them. And so as you share your story, I hope people remember theirs. I want to thank you for sharing it and sharing your energy with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. So Gwen, we've come to that moment where I thank you for sharing your spirit, sharing your story. And I ask people to reflect back to the teachers in their lives. And thank you for providing the inspiration for yourself as a student and as an entrepreneur. Much love to you, my sister. And as we say on the podcast, class dismissed. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Whole Student Podcast has been brought to you by Duncast. Produced by J.D. Scroggin, the Director of Marketing and Communication at the Dunn School, and co-produced by Brandon Scott of Comfort Food. Thank you for joining us.